this is how I brew the coffee when it comes to this coffee. So let's say that this is El Salvador Natural plus Anaerobic technique, because the process itself is natural. Anaerobic is just a technique they add to make complexity in the process. So this is how I approach. Let's say that for me the technique works, but always make sure that you taste whatever comes to any coffee that you have on the hands. Now let's taste our coffee. So now we're gonna proceed and grind, and we will select the number 6. Why I select number 6? I want to choose little bit coarse grain size because the beans are a little bit fermented. I'm gonna show you how we look. I choose this grain size because of the fermentation of the process, because the coffee already have a strength by the fermentation. So what I can do is to, instead of that, gain clarity, choosing a bit more coarse grain size for it. We're gonna weigh the coffee. I already know it's a fermented coffee, 15 grams. Now we're gonna proceed to grind. Number 6 in the grain size. Why? Because I want a little bit coarse so I can have more clarity over strength. Why? Because these beans from El Salvador are fermented. So this is my way to get a better quality. So now we proceed to our device. We're gonna use a big cyst. They have a ribs that avoid that the filter to get a stick to a, so the filter will not get stick to the device, so the flow rate of the water can be much better. Okay, we folded, see, you can see here we folded these sides so can fit. We will open little bit. I used to make a small smash here and I put it on the device, right? Always remember hold the filter, and I like to pour on the center. So see, we can see that the filter perfectly fits in the device, but we do that by two purpose, right? We rinse to remove the paper taste filter to the filter, and we need to preheat the device. Okay, when you will put the coffee, what you're gonna do is always slowly, don't put everything in one time. So observe, see, remember that we say we have 15 grams. Okay, so we need to do pre-infusion when the beans are fresh. These beans are being roasted on 23.8. So we can do pre-infusion. When the beans are not fresh, at least less than 10 days, we don't need to do pre-infusion actually. So okay, now we proceed to start. So I will do the first pour. Remember, I choose 88 degrees. So another important thing related is, since I know my beans are very fermented, or my beans are fermented, I use lower temperature. Why? Because I want to reduce the efficiency of my water, right? So reducing the efficiency, I will avoid getting these flavors that I don't need on my cup, right? So that's the reason I choose 88 for these El Salvador beans with natural anaerobic fermentation. So now we will proceed to do the first pour. Start the time, at the same time you will start to pour your water. See? Slowly. I will use a ratio of 1:3. So if I'm using 15 grams in, I will use 45 grams out to do my pre-infusion. So, pre-infusion, I did it for 35-45 seconds. Why? Because I want a longer pre-infusion to let the coffee to release properly the gas and, let's say, be ready for the next stage. So now I will pour the second until 120, but making sure that my flow rate is not so fast, so the water will have enough time to pass. So the last pour is something that I call center pour. Why Stella do a center pour? Because let's say that every time we pour, we already extract one of the layers of the coffee. I already did 3 pours, so if I do and I move a lot on my last pour, I will over agitate the small particles that is being extracted already. So that is why I prefer to be quiet on the center, so I will have a more cleaner aftertaste, and I will avoid getting flavors I don't need. So I'm using 1:16 as well. But still, if you know how to adjust all the parameters, you will be able to make a balanced cup of coffee, because yes, I modify my grind size, I modify my temperature, but I also change my ratio. Still, that is all parameters showing that I prefer clarity over strength. So on my brew is finished, I always take the cone out. I put it on the side. I will take my server and I will slur a little bit. Why? Because remember what I say a while ago. We are always having layers of coffee, right? So when we have different layers, what I'm doing with that is trying to homogenize. So make the all layers to become together. So now our coffee is done. Again, the technique can work for me. Maybe there is something to adjust still, but when it comes to fermented coffees, I like to lower my temp again to reduce my efficiency in my water, right? And make it coarser to has more clarity, because already the strength of the coffee comes from the fermentation. Okay? The technique works. See? Now I can still feel the fermentation, but I have clarity on the flavor. See? There is citrusy, there is cacao nibs, there is some berries. So I will not have on my palate that over punchy taste that will actually give it to me that intensity that I only want to drink one sip of that coffee. Okay? Thank you, and see you in the next one.